Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. So over the last week I continued my research into bioplastics and I had a few chats with different experts. So first of all I spoke with Austeia. She is a material researcher and product designer based in Latvia. And do you remember that last week I used to blend all my food leftover together? Well, she suggested me to subdivide my food waste and try to look at the properties of food. So following her suggestion, I managed to identify 3 different categories. So fruit and vegetable peels that are rich in fiber and that I can blend them together and use inside the recipe. Potato peels that are a bit different from the previous one because I can extract starch from them and I can use it as a binder. And also old bread, pizza corner and let's say flour-based food that I want to blend and maybe try to reshape it using water. Then I spoke with Anushka from the Green Lab and she suggested me a very interesting book about natural binder. And thanks to this book, I managed to identify which kind of binder I can extract from my food leftover. So I identified carbohydrates, such as starch and cellulose, and protein, like casein, osin, and albumin. I already work with 2 of them, and it can be interesting to try to extract other protein from my food leftover. This drove me to the 3rd expert I contacted, which is Shem from the Grow Lab, and I asked him how can I extract natural binder from food leftover, and here is his answer.
Extraction process in a vegetable is much more difficult. Okay. They're much more complicated mixtures, and like sort of separating things out is not simple. Generally, like, I mean, you can grind things up. Yeah, I don't know. Like when you start talking like purifying things, oftentimes in chemistry you're talking about solvents and things will go in one solvent and not the other solvent, and you do that again and again. Or there's specialized machines that take advantage of evaporation or boiling points and all these other things. You don't really need to do that necessarily. Man, like for the bioplastics food stuff, I mean, online is just a better sort of like Materium. I'm sure you've visited these kinds of websites. But it's especially from a, like, what do I have around my home perspective, it's kind of hard to give advice on that. Besides like putting glue in there and like, which you can do. I mean, don't overlook, you don't need to go 100% bio.
So he basically let me understand that make bioplastic only exclusively food leftover is quite a challenge. So I decided to swap to use not only food leftover but also some scrap that I can find in my place and around where I live. In the end, I spoke with Luca, which is a chemist and also a friend of mine, and he explained me a few of chemicals theory behind bioplastic, and together we managed to better define bioplastic. So bioplastic are plastic made using renewable resources. So that's the main difference between the traditional plastic. So for what concerns the making aspect of my project, I made a lot of experimentation over this week, mixing in different proportion, different ingredients. I was using squared silicone mold, and I felt that this will drive me to have a bunch of squared samples. So I decided I want to move on from this mold and try to experiment a little bit more and have more fun with this material. So I tried different material and different mold. I used metal mesh that I tried to shape in different way, and I used cloth that might help for absorb the water inside my bioplastic. So at this point of the project I want to set a goal, which actually is a bit ambitious. So I want to make all what I need for have a dinner using scrap and biomaterials. So I made a list of what I will need. So I want to make a stool, a table, a dish, cutlery, glass, and a candle holder, which I think is like the archetype of fancy dinner. So I think it's quite provocative to have a candle holder made out of food waste. I think it's a quite long list, but let's see what happens. I think it's gonna be fun. And that's all for this week. So see you next week.